My name was Farid. I was a respected defense attorney, confident, successful, and trapped. For years, I walked the cold halls of the Old Bailey, where the weight of history pressed down on me like the heavy robes of an ancient judge. In the courtroom, silence often screamed louder than the verdicts rendered. It carried the burden of fear and unspoken truths. Yet, beneath my polished facade, a spiritual emptiness gnawed at my core. My daily prayers felt like echoes in an empty chamber, words without meaning, obligation without connection. Then, on a day that would change everything, I collapsed. It happened during jury selection, surrounded by whispers of justice and judgment. In the void between consciousness and oblivion, I encountered Jesus, not as a figure from distant stories, but as a radiant presence piercing through the darkness of my doubts. He called my name, and with that simple act, everything shifted. I glimpsed a deeper reality, a spiritual warfare raging under the surface of our world, a war against the very essence of faith buried in the confines of rigid tradition. When I awoke, all I had known began to crumble. My thoughts wrestled with a truth that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. I reached out to those I loved, craving understanding, yet faced walls of rejection and hostility. Labeled a heretic, I stood at a crossroads, torn between my past and a burgeoning faith that threatened the very fabric of my identity. The loneliness was suffocating, yet my need for authenticity beckoned me forth, spiraling me into a secret quest for understanding. With each step deeper into this new journey, I uncovered connections to a vibrant community of believers. The peace I had yearned for began to blossom amidst the discomfort of my newfound faith. Each verse, each prayer whispered not just hope, but liberation through Christ. I knew then that this was not merely a personal awakening. It was a pressing mission to herald the truth I had discovered. And so, here we are. I stand at the precipice of a new destiny, ready to share my story, a testament to the transformative power of faith that overcomes chains of doubt and despair. But first, I need your voice. Comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Let's connect in this moment of truth. If you love Jesus and want to uncover more revelations like this, subscribe to Truth from Beyond now. This isn't just another tale. It's a call to awakening, a journey that promises to lead us all from darkness into light. Sitting in the historic Old Bailey, I felt the weight of my dual identity pressing down on me like a heavy shroud. As a defense attorney, I was accustomed to the high stakes of the legal system. But that day, the atmosphere was charged with something far more daunting, a spiritual climate that felt increasingly hostile. The interplay between traditional British justice and my Muslim identity formed a tension that was palpable. I could see it in the eyes of jurors, hear it in the hushed whispers of attorneys, and feel it in the silence that settled over the courtroom. The fear surrounding faith loomed large, creating an invisible barrier that separated the sacred from the secular. As the jury selection began and the cases of the accused unfolded, I found my mind drifting, grappling with the dissonance between my professional duties and my growing spiritual unrest. I was trained to uphold justice, but deep down I felt an unsettling void, a disconnection from a faith I once embraced wholeheartedly. With each challenge to my beliefs, I wrestled with nagging questions that clawed at my conscience. Was I losing my way? In the pursuit of justice, had I abandoned the truths that once anchored my spirit? The weight of these questions only grew heavier as the trial wore on. Then, in the midst of that tension, I was struck by an incident that changed everything. My heart raced, and in a moment that felt both surreal and profound, I collapsed. Time seemed to stretch, and suddenly I was no longer in the courtroom. I found myself enveloped in blinding light, a sensation so pure that every worry faded into nothingness. In that divine presence stood Jesus. His gaze was steady, full of love and compassion, and I felt instantly seen in a way I had never experienced before. This was no mere dream. It was an awakening that transformed the very essence of my being. As Jesus welcomed me, he began to reveal hidden truths about the world I had been navigating. I saw a panorama of manipulation at the hands of the elite, the various ways they crafted narratives that kept society divided and in chaos. It was as if he peeled back the layers of deception that masked the truth. The spiritual war that played out in the hearts of men was now laid bare before me, reflecting the conflicts that extended far beyond the walls of any courtroom. I understood that the struggles in justice, politics, and society were all intertwined, each decision shaped by a quest for power, often resulting in suffering for the weak. The message was clear. I had a role to play in this greater purpose. The revelations were not just meant for my understanding, but called for action. Jesus urged me to confront the deceptions, to awaken those still trapped in fear and ignorance. He revealed how vital it was for me, as a representative of justice, to speak the truth boldly, challenging the narratives that sought to perpetuate division. As the vision began to fade, I felt a powerful charge within me, a sense of mission that extended beyond myself, compelling me to share my experiences and advocate for those yearning for liberation in a world clouded by falsehoods. I awakened back in the courtroom, transformed and driven, ready to face the complexities of my life with renewed purpose and clarity. The path of awakening was just beginning, but I knew now that the truth would guide my steps forward. As I stood in the historic Old Bailey, preparing for another day filled with the complexities of the law, I could feel the weight of my responsibilities pressing down on me. My name is Farid, and I'm a 35-year-old Muslim defense attorney. On the surface, I appeared confident, navigating the courtroom with a sense of authority. However, beneath that exterior lay a profound emotional emptiness, a disconnection from the spiritual foundation that had shaped my upbringing. While I upheld the tenets of my faith, a nagging doubt began to emerge, challenging the essence of what I believed and how those beliefs aligned with the realities of the world around me. I grew up in a devoted family, steeped in tradition and faith. My parents instilled in me the importance of following the teachings of Islam, but as I matured and began my career in law, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. The very essence of my work, seeking justice for the marginalized, clashed with an internal struggle. I often questioned how the ideals of justice could be served in a world rife with deception and manipulation, where the elite dictated narratives that shaped societal norms. The pressure to conform to religious obligations felt increasingly suffocating, leaving me wrestling with guilt and loneliness. During the busy days filled with legal debates and arguments, I often turned to prayer, seeking solace and guidance. Yet, even in those moments of communion, I felt a growing chasm between my public persona and my private beliefs. It was as if I was living a dual existence, wearing a mask in court while my soul yearned for deeper truths. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was part of a larger spiritual war, one that demanded engagement and awakening. But how could I confront such a battle when the very fear of judgment loomed over me like a dark cloud? One evening, as I left the courthouse, I was involved in a near-fatal accident that would change the course of my life. In that terrifying moment, I hovered between life and death, and surprisingly, I found myself in an extraordinary place, a realm bathed in divine light. It was then that I encountered Jesus. His presence emanated love and understanding, transcending any religious boundaries I had imposed on myself. As he called my name, I felt my worries and doubts melt away, replaced by overwhelming clarity. He began to share revelations with me, insights that illuminated the hidden agendas that governed our world. In my encounter with Jesus, I was shown the intricate ways in which deception operated in society, how the elite spin narratives to maintain power and control over the masses. Each revelation struck me with profound urgency. I witnessed the suffering caused by the spiritual war we often ignored, the rampant division among people, perpetuated by fear and misunderstanding. Jesus emphasized the need for awakening, for individuals to rise up against the deception that kept them trapped. I realized my journey was not merely for personal enlightenment, but a call to share this truth and help others navigate their spiritual dilemmas amidst a world fraught with challenges. As the light began to fade, I was pulled back into consciousness, transformed and resolute, ready to embrace a mission that extended far beyond my former life. During my daily prayers, I began to feel an unsettling disconnection. What was once a sacred moment of communion now felt devoid of meaning, like an echo in a vast emptiness. My name is Farid al-Mansour, and as a defense attorney at the Old Bailey, I was accustomed to navigating the complexities of the law and the expectations that came with my position. Yet, as I stood there reciting familiar verses, I realized that my heart was not aligned with the words spilling from my lips. The prayers, which had offered solace, now felt like a mechanical exercise, and I found myself questioning the rigidity of my faith. Each prayer session intensified my feelings of isolation. My upbringing in a devoted Muslim family had instilled in me the importance of unwavering belief, but the doctrine seemed to fester with contradictions. As I reflected on my professional life, the high-stakes decisions I made in the courtroom weighed heavily on my conscience. How many lives did the legal system impact, and did I truly serve justice when the underlying reality seemed fraught with hidden agendas? The doubts grew sharper, and I felt like I was standing on shaky ground, caught between the person I was expected to be and the growing longing for authenticity. I carried these tangled emotions with me until one fateful evening when an incident changed everything. While driving home through a familiar route, I became lost in thought about the cases that haunted my mind. Suddenly, my car collided with another vehicle. The world around me went dark as the impact felt like a jolt to my very soul. In that moment, I found myself hovering in a space filled with light, a drastic shift from the stark reality I had just experienced. It was there that I encountered Jesus, and his radiant presence enveloped me with an overwhelming sense of love that transcended earthly concerns. In his light, Jesus revealed profound truths to me. I saw the strings of manipulation that the elite pulled behind the scenes, orchestrating conflicts fueled by deception. Those hidden agendas that perpetuate division in society, weaving fear and misunderstanding into the fabric of our lives, all of it began to make sense. The revelation struck me hard as I realized that the spiritual war one had long sensed was indeed real, raging not just outside but within each person's heart. Jesus' words pierced through my confusion, showing me that seeking the truth was not only a personal journey but a collective responsibility. When I returned to consciousness in the wreckage of my car, everything around me seemed transformed. The gravity of what I had witnessed loomed large in my mind, and I felt a newfound urgency to act. The revelation I received was not merely for me alone. It demanded that I venture out of the confines of my upbringing, to share my experience and help others awaken to the truth that had been shrouded in deception. I knew I had to confront the challenges of my community, to speak out against the fears that kept people trapped in outdated beliefs. Armed with this understanding, I was resolute in my mission to illuminate the path to spiritual liberation, determined to make a lasting impact despite the risks that awaited me. Each conversation, each interaction became an opportunity to advocate for awakening, confronting the very spiritual war we were all called to engage in. It was during a routine jury selection at the Old Bailey when everything changed. The tension in the courtroom felt palpable, and as I stood there, I couldn't shake the growing sense of unease settling in my chest. I was Farid al-Mansour, a defense attorney dedicated to upholding justice, yet internally, I was wrestling with feelings of inadequacy and doubt. My mind raced with thoughts of my upbringing, my responsibilities, and the expectations placed on me as a Muslim lawyer. My heart ached as I navigated the complexities of my faith amid a system that often seemed to sidestep the very principles of justice it was meant to uphold. Then, in an instant, that sense of unease escalated into something far more overwhelming. I collapsed in front of a startled jury, my vision blurring as I felt myself slipping away. The world around me faded, replaced by a beautiful, blinding light. In that moment of near death, I was transported beyond the physical realm. I found myself face to face with Jesus. His presence radiated warmth and unconditional love, and I felt the weight of my burdens lift as he called my name. It was then that the floodgates of truth opened, and I was illuminated by revelations that would forever alter my understanding of faith and existence. Jesus began to unveil the spiritual war that had quietly raged around us all. It became clear that many of the struggles and suffering I witnessed daily stemmed from a hidden agenda orchestrated by the elite. I saw how the manipulation of truth fragmented society and fueled division, keeping people entrapped in cycles of fear and misunderstanding. These powers had crafted a narrative that held sway over the masses, and the deception was insidious. I could feel the urgency in Jesus' voice, as he insisted that I break free from these chains, that I awaken not only for myself, but to help others see beyond the constructs that limited their faith. As this revelation unfolded, I became acutely aware of the distractions that come with organized religion, how they can detract from genuine spirituality and connection with the divine. The rituals that had once comforted me now seemed to cloud the path to true understanding. I felt empowered to challenge the dogmas that had given me structure but had failed to provide the deep sense of fulfillment I craved. Jesus implored me to rise above the confusion, to embrace the truth of my experiences, and to seek out others who had also been yearning for clarity amid the noise of societal expectations. When I returned to consciousness, shaken yet transformed, the courtroom's familiar walls felt both comforting and confining. I knew I could no longer pretend to be the same man, one who simply followed the rules without questioning their origins. A new purpose coursed through my veins, compelling me to act on the truths I had uncovered. I felt an unwavering call to advocate for those who felt trapped by their beliefs, to illuminate the path toward awakening for them as well. While fear of social backlash and rejection loomed over me, I understood that the potential for liberation was worth any risk. With each day, I prepared to navigate this journey of sharing my testimony, driven by the burning fire of urgency to help others confront the deceptions that ensnared them. The truth was waiting to be revealed, and I was ready to walk that path, no matter where it might lead. When I awoke from that life-altering experience, the world felt different, almost alien. I had glimpsed something extraordinary during my near-death moment. I found myself in the presence of Jesus, witnessing profound revelations that shattered the way I viewed everything, my faith, my responsibilities, and the reality around me. Yet, as I returned to my life as Farid al-Mansour, a respected defense attorney, I quickly learned that the road ahead would be filled with obstacles that I had not anticipated. My attempts to share my experience with my family were met with outright rejection and hostility. The faces I had once felt such closeness to now reflected disappointment and fear. I was labeled a heretic, someone who had strayed from the traditions that had shaped our family for generations. Each conversation became increasingly tense, filled with attempts to convince me to abandon the path I had chosen. They didn't understand how my encounter with Jesus had transformed me. They only saw the divergence from what they held sacred. Their animosity struck a painful chord within me, amplifying my feelings of guilt and loneliness that began to consume my thoughts. As I navigated these turbulent waters, I wrestled with the deep internal crisis that ensued. While I sought to embrace the truth that Jesus had illuminated for me, I found myself grappling with overwhelming feelings of isolation. I loved my family, and the thought of being cast out weighed heavily on my heart. I questioned whether I could reconcile my newfound beliefs with the bonds that had once felt unbreakable. It felt as if I were caught in a battle, a spiritual war between my desire for acceptance and my commitment to the truths I had uncovered. The loneliness wrapped around me like a shroud as I sought connection in my community. I gravitated toward others who had experienced similar awakenings, those who understood the gravity of the spiritual war we faced. But even among like-minded individuals, I often felt a lingering sense of uncertainty. Could my journey really impact anyone? The risk of further alienation from my past haunted me, whispering doubts into my mind. I sought comfort in prayer, but even during those moments of reflection, The ache for acceptance from my family lingered in the back of my mind. Despite the turmoil, I knew I had to be brave. I had witnessed the hidden agendas that the elite wielded, manipulating societies, perpetuating division, and fostering deception. My encounter with Jesus had thrust me into an urgent mission to illuminate the truth for others still ensnared by ignorance. I felt a flicker of hope, the thought that perhaps my journey would guide someone else to their own awakening. As the weight of expectations surrounded me, I resolved to push through the clouds of doubt, ready to advocate for the truth, even if it meant standing alone. The path ahead was arduous, but I was no longer the same man who had driven home that fateful night. I was a messenger of awakening, prepared to face the trials lying in wait. In the solitude of my home, I began a quest for truth that I had long denied myself. As a Muslim defense attorney, I had always felt the weight of expectation from my family and society. Yet, inside, I grappled with a gnawing sense of dissatisfaction that stemmed from an unanswered longing. When I first opened the Bible in secret, the pages felt like uncharted territory, filled with mysteries just waiting to be unraveled. Each verse held a power I had never anticipated, igniting questions that had lingered at the edges of my mind for far too long. I could feel the stirrings of awakening, but along with that came a sense of discomfort, as if I were stepping on sacred ground, challenging the very beliefs that had been instilled in me since childhood. Among the online Christian communities I discovered, I found a plethora of shared experiences that resonated deeply with my own struggles. Here were voices that echoed my confusions and yearnings. They had faced their own transformations and emerged changed, much like I sought to do. Night after night, I immersed myself in this new understanding, connecting with individuals who spoke of their encounters with Jesus, each story stoking the fire of my own awakening. Yet, even in this growing sense of community, there were moments of fear of judgment, fear of the backlash I could face, and the discomfort of diving deeper into these revelations. The realization that my exploration could lead to a potential fracture in my family relationships loomed over me, casting a shadow on my newfound peace. As I continued to pray privately, the conversations with Jesus began to take on a more intimate tone. I prayed for guidance, for understanding, and for the strength to confront the fears that plagued me. I began to experience a deepening connection with Him, a solace that filled the void I had felt for so long. Each prayer lifted me a little higher, further nudging me toward the truth I was desperately seeking. The essence of Jesus' love felt tangible, wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. He gently reminded me that the spiritual war one sensed was not just one fought externally, but also within me. My doubts were part of this larger struggle, a conflict that required my engagement, not just solitude or compliance. During my journey, I started uncovering the veiled truths about politics and society that shaped our daily experiences. The hidden agenda of those in power, the elite who manipulate our beliefs and emotions, became a stark reality. I began to see the threads of deception woven through our systems, designed to foster division rather than unity. It was a realization that both frightened and empowered me. I understood that this awakening was not merely for my own liberation, but also a call to challenge the narratives that perpetuate suffering and confusion. The revelation was a clarion call echoing through my spirit, igniting a desire to advocate for the truth, regardless of the potential backlash. In the quiet spaces of my heart, a fierce resolve began to take shape. I recognized that embracing this mission to help others would demand courage and transparency. I felt compelled to navigate this delicate balance of truth and acceptance, especially as I thought of my own family. How could I convey the depths of my changes without igniting more fear and resentment? The struggle to bridge the gap between my evolving beliefs and deep-rooted familial expectations created a tension that felt almost unbearable at times. Yet I held on to the hope that love could surpass these divisions, and that my journey might one day foster understanding and connection rather than alienation. Each day brought new challenges, Yet with each challenge, the light of truth shone brighter, guiding me toward an awakening that felt both exhilarating and essential in a world so desperately in need of healing. As I sat there during jury selection at the Old Bailey, a wave of realization washed over me. My name is Farid al-Mansour, and I have spent years navigating the challenges and responsibilities of being a defense attorney in a world laden with complexity. The courtroom felt familiar, yet my heart was heavy with the weight of my recent transformation, a profound shift I had experienced during a harrowing near-death moment. I had encountered Jesus, and everything I thought I knew about myself, my faith, and the very fabric of society began to unravel. The reality of this awakening ignited something deep within me, compelling me to embrace my mission to bear witness to the truth I had found. In the aftermath of that experience, my journey was marked by uncertainty and courage. The revelations I received were staggering. I saw the hidden agenda of the elite being woven through the fabric of our daily lives, the manipulation and deception that shape not only our politics but also our spirituality. I understood that there was a spiritual war being fought, one that many chose to ignore, preferring instead the comfort of complacency. It became increasingly obvious that silence in the face of such a war was complicity, and I couldn't bear to allow my fear of backlash to dictate my actions. The conviction that surged through me was both invigorating and terrifying. I knew I had to speak out, to challenge the narratives that had kept so many bound in chains of ignorance and fear. As I navigated the complexities of my new reality, I began reaching out to like-minded individuals who understood the transformative power of truth. In these circles, I shared my story, but often felt the weight of risk looming over me. The potential backlash from my community and family was ever present, casting a shadow over my newfound mission. Yet, I was deeply aware that others were counting on me to break the silence. Each story shared among us resonated with a sense of urgency, each of us fueled by the truth we uncovered and the desire to awaken others to the deception that plagued our society. The discussion sparked a fire within me, one that propelled me to advocate for change despite the personal costs. Drawing strength from my connection to Jesus, I embraced my role as a messenger. I reflected on the profound call to action I had received, recognizing that my journey extended beyond my comfort zone. This work required me to confront the very structures of belief that had once defined me. Each time I spoke out, I felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. I was determined to take the lessons I had learned, the importance of truth and the need for awakening, and share them widely. The thought of exposing the manipulation that governed our perceptions became a driving force behind my every action. Even though the challenges ahead were daunting, I also saw glimmers of hope in places I hadn't expected. I witnessed individuals begin to question the status quo, to challenge the dogmas that had once held them captive. I understood that by sharing my experience, I could ignite a spark of liberation in others. The urgency of our collective awakening in this spiritual war became clear. We were called to confront the deception, to rise above the illusion that divided us, and to seek a deeper connection with the divine. With every day that passed, I grew more committed to this mission, ready to share the truth and help others find their own paths to freedom and understanding, even as I faced the unknown ahead. Under the cover of night, I made the decision to leave behind my home and the identity that had defined me for so long. The moonlight cast an eerie glow on the streets of London as I walked, the shadows of my past trailing behind me like ghostly reminders of what I was leaving behind. My name is Farid al-Mansour, a defense attorney entrenched in a world of expectations, but now I felt an overwhelming pull towards a new purpose. This symbolic act of courage felt like a rebirth, even as the sacrifice weighed heavily on my heart. The pain of loss was palpable, especially knowing that my departure would sever the ties to family and community that had bound me to my old life. The transformation I underwent came following a life-altering encounter with Jesus during a near-death experience. It swept away the cobwebs of doubt and despair, illuminating the hidden agendas that dictated the norms of my existence. In that sacred moment, I was shown the deception that so many accepted without question, and it sparked a fire within me that could not be ignored. As I traversed the city, I felt that fire calling me, urging me to share the revelations I had received and to evangelize for the truth that could liberate others from the chains of ignorance and fear. But I could not escape the myriad of emotions that threatened to overtake me. Guilt gnawed at my insides for abandoning my family, my parents who instilled in me the values of our faith, my community that expected my loyalty. I could hear their whispers in my mind, the disappointment and anger that would surely follow my transformation. Yet the sense of freedom that awakened within me was intoxicating, and I knew that the spiritual war one had become a part of demanded my full engagement. Each step I took felt like a protest against the confines of societal expectations, a declaration of my commitment to the truth I had discovered. As I wandered through the moonlit streets, I sought out places where others gathered in search of enlightenment. Online communities, informal gatherings, these became my new sanctuaries. Here I met fellow seekers who shared their own stories of awakening. We spoke of the urgency of the spiritual war. We dissected the ways the elite manipulate narratives to keep society divided. I listened intently as others recounted their encounters with Jesus, their experiences becoming a balm for my own fears. Together, we began to build a bridge of understanding, challenging the deception that had long held our hearts captive. But still, the fear of ostracism loomed large. I worried about the backlash I might face from those who didn't understand my path or the changes I had embraced. Every time I prepared to share my newfound beliefs, a shiver of uncertainty ran through me. However, I held on to hope, knowing that speaking the truth could pave the way for others to join this awakening. It was no longer just about me. It was about serving as a conduit for the love and revelation I had received. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, yet I felt a profound sense of purpose propelling me forward. I was ready to confront the shadows, knowing that daylight awaited those brave enough to seek the truth. Years after my encounter with Jesus, I found myself deeply immersed in a new life, one filled with purpose and connection within a loving Christian community. I'm Farid al-Mansour, the defense attorney who once wrestled with the burdens of expectation and doubt. Now I dedicate my time to helping others achieve spiritual liberation, to guide them on their own paths of awakening. My testimony, born from the depths of struggle, has touched the lives of many, offering them hope in a world riddled with deception and hidden agendas. Through the sharing of my journey, I often see faces light up with understanding, and knowing I can make a difference feels like a divine gift. As I connect with those who seek answers, I feel the urgency of the spiritual war we're all engaged in. I listen to their fears, their doubts, and their longings, each story echoing my own past struggles. Together we confront the deceptions that keep so many shackled in ignorance. The revelations I received urged me to expose the lies perpetuated by the elite, who thrive on division and confusion. Each gathering reinforces the belief that the truth can indeed set us free if we have the courage to seek it. The stories we share create a ripple effect, inspiring others to question the status quo and explore their relationship with faith on a deeper level. The transformations I witness in others are profoundly moving. I see individuals break free from the constraints of traditional beliefs that no longer serve them, stepping into their own stories of awakening. They share experiences akin to mine, moments of clarity that reshape their understanding of spirituality. Each conversion feels like a small victory in the spiritual war, a testament that our fight against deception is bearing fruit. These connections fill me with hope, strengthening my resolve to continue this mission, even in the face of skepticism from those who don't understand or accept the changes I've embraced. Yet, despite the blessings that come with my new purpose, the chasm between me and my family remains a source of pain. I often reflect on the love we shared and the disappointment etched on their faces haunts me. I've tried reaching out, but each time, I am met with rejection and hostility. They label me a heretic, an outsider, and that perception cuts deep. I carry the weight of that isolation, questioning if there will ever be a path back to them. The fear of losing my family lingers, and each day the hope for reconciliation ebbs and flows like the tides. In my heart, I still hold a flicker of hope that one day they will understand the truth of my journey. I envision a time when I can stand before them, ready to share the revelations I've received, how the hidden agendas of our world can be challenged, how love and acceptance can break down barriers. Until that day comes, I remain committed to my path, empowered by my experiences, and equipped with the message of awakening that Jesus revealed to me. The urgency to spread this message and foster understanding fuels my spirit, reminding me of the greater purpose in this spiritual war. I continue to walk forward, unwavering in my mission, eager to see the transformation that my truth can inspire in others, and holding on to the hope that one day I may bridge the divide that now separates me from my family. The day started like any other for me, a Muslim defense attorney navigating the complexities of the legal system at the Old Bailey. I entered the courtroom with the usual weight of responsibility on my shoulders, surrounded by a tapestry of tension and anticipation. But as I prepared for the jury selection, I could feel a stirring within me, an unsettling sense that something was amiss. My daily prayers had become routine, filled with the rituals of my faith yet void of the deeper connection I had once felt. The conflict between my obligations and my spiritual yearnings swirled in my mind like a storm cloud, casting shadows over my spirit. And then it happened. As the proceedings began, I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me, and in that moment, everything shifted. I collapsed into darkness, and for a brief moment, I stepped beyond the veil of life. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself enveloped in a blinding light, standing in a realm that felt infinitely more real than the courtroom I had just left. In front of me stood Jesus. His presence radiated love and compassion, and in that moment, every doubt, every fear melted away. As he called my name, I felt reassured that this encounter was the turning point I had desperately needed. In those surreal moments with Jesus, he revealed profound truths that unraveled the deceptions woven throughout my life. I saw the hidden agendas of the elite, those who manipulate power to divide us and maintain control over our lives. I witnessed the spiritual war that raged not just in distant lands, but within our very hearts and minds. Jesus illuminated the ways in which we've become ensnared by fear and ignorance, presenting revelation after revelation that underscored the importance of awakening. I understood then that religion could sometimes confine us, creating barriers instead of building bridges. The truth was waiting for us to grasp it, a truth that held the power to liberate and transform. As Jesus continued to share these revelations, I felt a surge of urgency within me. The world outside was filled with chaos and confusion. Wars waged over ideologies and leaders who obscured the truth for their gain. It became painfully apparent that my role extended beyond the confines of the law. I was being called to break the silence that kept so many in chains. The urgency to confront the deceptions that held people captive weighed heavily on my heart. I realized that each person I encountered, each life I sought to defend, was an opportunity to spread this awakening, to help them see the greater truths that lay beneath the surface. When I awoke, gasping for air in that familiar courtroom, I was no longer the same man. The revelations haunted me, urging me to act. I felt an overwhelming need to share my experience, to convey the love and truth that Jesus had illuminated for me. Yet the risk loomed large. How would my community react? Would they shun me for daring to speak out against the norms that governed our lives? The fear of social ostracism weighed heavily on my conscience, but the clarity I had received compelled me to embrace my newfound mission. I had tasted the truth. and the call to awaken others echoed in my heart like a resounding drum, demanding that I step into the light and confront whatever awaited me on the other side of fear. Now, as I share the depths of my journey with you, I feel the weight of a universal truth pressing upon us all. Have you ever found yourself standing on the precipice of understanding, questioning the narratives we've been fed? Each of us carries the echo of something profound, a whisper that insists there is more than meets the eye, more than the legal battles and societal expectations. There exists a grand tapestry, woven by the hands of a creator, intricately connecting us all, urging us toward a collective awakening. I faced rejection and fear from those I once held dear, like a shadow lurking in the periphery of my newfound faith. But those struggles ignited a fire within me, a purpose to illuminate the hidden truths that keep so many ensnared. The spiritual war is real and urgent, and the call for awakening is not just for a chosen few. It echoes in the hearts of everyone watching. The world is aching for change, for clarity, for liberation. And you are a part of this unfolding story, playing a role that only you can fulfill. So now, I turn to you with an open heart. What is stirring within you? Have you felt a moment, perhaps a dream or a passing thought, that made you question the very fabric of your beliefs? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflections matter, and together we can explore these profound mysteries. You are not alone on this path. We are in this journey together, seeking light amidst the shadows. If this message resonates with your spirit, don't walk away without subscribing to Truth from Beyond. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss the revelations waiting just around the corner. Our conversation is far from over. In the next video, we'll delve into another powerful testimony, one that explores the intersections of faith and doubt in extraordinary ways. Thank you for joining me on this pilgrimage of understanding. I'm Farid, and I leave you with this thought. The truth has a way of finding us when we're ready to embrace it. Let's continue this quest together.